Hey there, Pastor Frank coming to you live via a recorded message. Hope you're doing well. I've got my Richardson High School t-shirt on because tonight is Linus's first game for the junior varsity team, and I hope everyone does well at the game and in the stands. The heat is the heat. It is going to be hot. But anyway, I wanted to stop by and talk about some worship changes that are coming to the church. We know that we sent around a worship survey to the congregation a couple weeks ago. We've received 71 surveys back, so thank you for making that effort. And we also had, a dozen or 15 people or so show up at a listening session last Thursday night to talk about worship. And those surveys and the listening sesh helped us to kind of listen, but to hear from people what's working for worship. What do they really like about worship? What do they miss in worship? We took all that feedback to our staff team yesterday. There's not a worship committee at Spring Valley, at least now. We're going to create one very soon, a worship design team. You'll be hearing about that more later. But for now, we took it to our staff and we shared all the feedback from the survey. It's like 8 pages worth. We talked about all of it. And we talked about what we need as worship and what the purpose of worship is. And what we decided as a staff, based on your feedback, was that worship needs to be a unifying force in the church. Theologically, worship is the foundation upon which our lives are built and our church is built. We exist to worship. We exist for worship. And so worship ought to be unifying. And one way to make worship unifying is to have one service only. And then we started thinking about, what does that service look like? It's not going to be traditional and it's not going to be contemporary. Y'all, I don't like those words anyway. They don't mean a whole lot. After all, worship is traditional and contemporary at one time or another. So it's kind of a meaningless term. And we had that history back in the 90s and early 2000s with the worship wars, where people chose worship service based on the style of music. And for the most part, people don't choose worship that way anymore. Now, there are some, but for the most part, people choose worship based on their needs, the schedule, what time it's offered, and the feel of the service, not so much the style. So it's not going to be contemporary. It's not going to be traditional. It's going to be Spring Valley. It's going to be indigenous to our congregation as it exists now, but also as it evolves over time. The more we reach out into the community and bring new people in to partner along with us in our worship going forward. We said, what if the service was not at 11 o'clock? Again, going back to the survey, we asked that question. How open would you be to changing the schedule on Sunday mornings? 75% of the people who responded said they would at least be somewhat open. 75%, that's a big number. We took that almost as a mandate. And so we started being creative. Why does it have to be at 11 o'clock? I did some research. The 11 o'clock hour is rooted, and I'm using that term intentionally, it's rooted in agrarian culture. Back when the majority, if not all people in America were farmers, they needed those early morning hours to tend to their livestock and their crops. And so they couldn't be to worship until 11 o'clock. It just became a habit. There's no other reason for it. Jesus wasn't resurrected at 11 o'clock on Easter Sunday. It's a habit. And so our culture doesn't reflect an agrarian culture anymore. What if it was at 10 o'clock? We started being creative. This is where the Holy Spirit started showing up, because people started throwing out ideas all over the place. It was amazing to watch. 10 o'clock allows for several things to happen. The first is that right now we have 3 services, right? We have an 8:30 and we have 2 services at 11. If we have one service at 10, everybody in the congregation has to move a little bit. So it's not like a handful of people have to move. to where the majority of the people are. Everybody has to move some. 10 o'clock allows for all kinds of creativity around that time. So our Sunday school could meet from 9 to 9:45. Right now it starts at 9:30. It'll meet at 9. But your class may decide, no, I don't know about 9, but I can meet at 11. We could have our class from 11 to 12. We could offer small group classes from 11 to 12. Short-term classes like an Advent study or a Lenten study, or studies that are tied to the themes of worship, right? We have all these sermon series that are going on. We can design small group studies, discussions based on that. We've just had it in worship. Now let's go talk about it more. We could have our administrative teams meeting Sunday at 11 o'clock. It's super hard to get onto my schedule. The trustees, the finance team, it's hard to get them organized. But what if they met at 11 o'clock on Sunday? We've already had worship. We're already fired up. We might be coming to those meetings in a better spirit because we've gone to worship first. Who knows? Think about the youth group. What if they had Bible study at 9, worship at 10, the ukulele group at 11, and then they had their weekly activity from 12 to 2, including lunch. Now they don't have to come back in the evening. See, it creates all kinds of possibilities for other ministries of the church. And 10 o'clock also creates an invitational culture. So we want to reach young people, right? Going back to those surveys, we asked, what's missing from our worship? And the overwhelming number one response to that people said was young people, children, and youth in worship. Young people today are so busy. Those families are so busy. 11 o'clock is too late. Oftentimes, 8:30 is too early. 10 o'clock is in that sweet spot right in the middle. It's like that Mama Bear's oatmeal in the story, right? It's just right. So think about that young couple that just moved into your neighborhood. What a great time to invite them to worship. When will these changes take place? All right. On the September 17th, we'll have one service only in Wesley Hall for Common Ground. That's the 22nd anniversary of that service. 22 years that service has been going on. We want to celebrate all of those lay people and pastors and worship teams that have been so faithful for all that time, 2+ decades in ministry. So the whole congregation will worship September 17 in Wesley Hall. October 1st is when the time change will be happening, the worship time change, right? So Sunday school will move to 9 o'clock. Congregational worship will be at 10 o'clock in the sanctuary. It's World Communion Sunday that day on October 1st. So it's a natural day to be creative, to celebrate all different kind of cultures and languages in worship. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be wonderful. I can't wait. So I'm asking a lot. Our staff is asking a lot. We're asking you to trust us, that we have listened to your feedback, and that we are being led by the Spirit to institute these changes. Are they forever? I don't know. Will they be in place until Jesus returns? I don't know that either, right? I'm asking for a year. A year will help us to discern a new vision for the congregation. We can't build out further from that because the world is changing so fast. The church is changing. I'm not being hyperbolic here. The church is changing faster now than it has in any other time since the days of Jesus. It's true. We don't know where the culture is going or where the church is going. We have to be adaptable. We know that. We have to be ready to move when the Spirit tells us to move, and we believe that Spirit is telling us to move now. And so here's what I'm asking. Everybody has to move. Everybody has to adjust their Sunday morning schedule before October 1st. So let's do that with a spirit of openness, with a spirit of trust, and a spirit of unity, that the service will be a unifying force for our community here at Spring Valley. And then let's do it with a sense of invitation. Let's invite new people to join with us on this new path that we're taking. Let's be excited because the Spirit has shown up. We've listened to your feedback. Thank you for sharing it. And now let's get on board. Let's be excited. Let's be open. Let's be unified, and let's be invitational. All right. I will see you on Sunday. Have a great weekend, and go Eagles. Bye for now.